I recently uploaded a video showcasing dialogue in KoTOR 2 of Kreia in the Tomb of Freedon Nadd on Dxun.
The soldier is correct. The dark side is strong here, and it will grant its strength to the Sith. Freedon Nadd's power appears to have been underestimated. His legacy lives inside the very stones of his resting place. Anyone attuned to the dark side will have a tremendous advantage here. Proceed cautiously.
You normally wouldn't be able to hear this dialogue through a playthrough. The only way to get to it is to be at a point before visiting the tomb, having Kreia in your party, and use a cheat code to move the player there. You have to press the tilde key, type warp 411DXN and press enter. If you ask me, I would say that the developers wrote and recorded these lines long before they completely finished the entire framework of the game's progression and storyline. That way they could have them and not need them, so they can avoid having to call voice actors back to record more. But there's been some speculation on why they took this route, and possible ways she could have gone to the tomb anyway. I've been wondering if perhaps there's a lore-based reason that could explain it. A reason the developers said that going to the Tomb of Freedon Nadd is not something Kreia could or would do. If through your adventures on Onderon you side with Queen Talia, Colonel Tobin is struck down by the Drexel larva, and after you defeat Vaklu, you get a small cutscene of Kreia sneaking away and healing the Colonel. Then she uses him to trick Darth Nihilus into attacking Telos.
The wound is not a mortal one, though it has been some time since I exercised my healing powers. There is a shred of life within you still. A gift from your master, no doubt. Awaken, Colonel Tobin. Your part in this is not over. Colonel Tobin, I am with Vaklu. The war has gone against him. He sent me to rescue you, to tell you you must make haste off-planet. The Jedi have struck. They had a secret academy buried on Telos, and they are showing themselves at last. We are all in danger.
What? But the Jedi are gone. They have all but vanished.
So we all thought, but they have hidden themselves on Telos.
Out of my way, old woman. This war can still be won, and Onderon can be freed.
Indeed. This war is far from over.
That makes her essential to the Onderon trip. Otherwise, the developers would have to figure out another way to have Kreia trick Nihilus.
Lord, I bring news of the Jedi. A place where you may feed. Telos, Master. There is an academy of Jedi on Telos. Perhaps hundreds of them. Enough to sustain you. And enough for you to free Onderon. Enough for you to free Onderon.
Later on, you encounter Tobin on Nihilus' ship, the Ravager. If you side with General Vaklu, Colonel Tobin still gets hit by the Drexel larva, but you don't get the cutscene of Kreia reviving him, and you also don't see the cutscene of him meeting with Nihilus. But once you get to the Ravager, he's still there. When asked why, he tells you that Kreia told him the same thing she would have told him if you sided with Talia.
I told him, you know, what the old woman told me. I told him of the academy here, of the Jedi here. I could not have kept it from him, even if I had wanted to.
He means that Jedi witch you travel with, Kreia.
Yes, the old woman on Onderon. She spoke of the Jedi Academy here on Telos, and my master was forced to come here.
This seems to be a long, unsolved mystery. He doesn't need to be there, he's not essential to the Ravager's destruction, and he can be completely avoided. We can't employ Occam's razor and say that it's a game mistake, because like I said earlier, if not for Tobin, then the developers would have to figure out some other way for Kreia to trick Nihilus. It could be that they did have ideas but ran out of development time before they could implement it. We all know what Obsidian Entertainment went through by now. Could it be that Kreia healed Tobin just like in the Talia path, but did so off-screen? But if that's the case, then what could she possibly tell him? The only reason he went and told Nihilus about Jedi being on Telos was to somehow appease him and hope that he'd help him take Onderon. But in the Vaklu path, they do take Onderon, and they betray Darth Nihilus. So the best thing I can do is speculate that perhaps Nihilus has some sort of hold on him, and Kreia knew it.
A gift from your master, no doubt.
I could not have kept it from him, even if I had wanted to. He came with his power, his soldiers. It seemed as if there was nothing we could not do. Nothing the Queen could do to stop us.
To him,
You are dust motes in a storm, a grain upon the beach, and as insignificant as a body that orbits the graveyard of Malachor.
Either way, whether Talia or Vaklu, Kreia would have to be there to manipulate Tobin, so she can't go to the tomb on Dxun. Perhaps at one point in development they had the idea for the player to assault the tomb first and then travel to Onderon. But there could be a lore-based reason as to why Kreia had to avoid going to the tomb. She needs to be on Onderon to manipulate events, so that's reason enough, but we also know that Kreia isn't going anywhere near some Sith Lord's tomb, the same way she avoided Korriban's surface and the Valley of the Dark Lords. It would be difficult for her to maintain her center there.
If you walk Korriban's surface, you shall walk it without me. I cannot. This place is strong with the dark side. It is difficult to center myself here.
So she went through the motions to make it so she would be on that basilisk going to Onderon. If you side with Vaklu, then Colonel Tobin makes it a necessity that your forces be split up.
The Sith Lord has been using an ancient tomb on Dxun as their base in the system. That tomb isn't too far from your encampment. You need to assemble a group that can eliminate the Sith at the tomb. We'll coordinate with Kelborn when you're ready to strike. After they're attacked there, the Sith will turn on us. So we'll need you here with us. You'll have to divide your forces. We need your skills on the planet. You should select someone you trust to lead the group to attack the Sith camp.
If you side with Talia, then Kreia insists that you split up and send a separate team to assault the tomb. She mentions that she senses that they will still get the Kavar and the Queen in time, but nothing specific beyond that.
You underestimate the Force, Mandalorian. I sense that we may still get to Master Kavar in time. I sense there is something stirring on the moon itself. Tell me, have your senses picked up anything from Dxun?
Yes, we have. How? We picked up some transmissions from nearby in the jungle. Zuka's satellite relay has also picked up several shuttle launches with old Sith transmitter IDs. Some sort of staging base, perhaps.
The Sith forces must be stopped. Otherwise, the Mandalorian is right. Master Kavar and Queen Talia won't survive this day.
Dividing our forces at a time like this is foolhardy.
and this is why a common soldier will never triumph against a Jedi. Your military tactics are nothing compared to the Force.
It is essential and inevitable that we face both enemies at the same time.
In the process of organizing the strike team, she obviously doesn't set herself up to lead it, and she also doesn't suggest she follow the leader. As an added bonus, I'd like to add that I went through the options and she seems neutral to who leads the team. But there's two party members in particular that she approves of you sending on the mission. One is Bayodura.
Yes, good choice. And who else?
And the other is Mandalore.
Excellent choice.
Mandalore isn't Force sensitive at all, and whether Bayodura is trained or not, her words remain the same. The ones she disapproves of the most seem to be KoTOR and T3M4.
Fine. And who else? It's your decision. Not the most subtle choice.
Droids. I should look into this more. It may be something interesting to read into. Now, what seems to be happening is that the events in the tomb and Onderon were happening simultaneously. It seems they needed the Drexel larva to break the barrier to the throne room. Either they had no other way or it was the quickest way. If the Exile and the Mandalorians had committed their forces to assaulting the tomb, could they have stopped the ritual before the beast had broken through the barrier? Perhaps, and if that happened, they'd lose control of it and it would have started killing all the soldiers around it without breaking the barrier. That may have given the Exile enough time to then travel to Onderon, but Kreia needed Tobin in a situation where she could manipulate him, and on the floor wounded was perfect. Beyond all that, I'm quite certain that Kreia wouldn't want to visit the Tomb of Freedon Nadd. Besides the dark side energy that permeates the entire area, there's also concentrated pockets such as these. And you can make Kreia journey into them, resulting in one of these. At this point, either one of these will be unacceptable to Kreia. This is the last thing she would want, let alone this.